Picture this. It's 3 a.m. and your mind is racing. You're lying in bed exhausted, but your thoughts are bouncing from tomorrow's presentation to that conversation you had last week to your finances to that thing you forgot to do to wondering if you locked the front door. Your brain feels like a browser with 50 tabs open, each one demanding attention, each one creating more noise. This is mental chaos, and if you're listening to this right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mental chaos isn't just an inconvenience. It's the silent killer of productivity, peace, and progress. It's what keeps you stuck in cycles of overwhelm, procrastination, and anxiety. But here's what most people don't realize. Mental chaos isn't a character flaw or something you have to live with forever. It's a pattern that can be broken with one simple method. Today, I'm going to share with you a technique so straightforward, so powerful that you'll wonder why no one taught it to you before. This isn't about complex meditation practices or expensive therapy sessions. This is about taking back control of your mind in the next hour. By the end of this, you'll have a clear practical system to end mental chaos and create the mental clarity that successful people use to achieve their biggest goals. Chapter 1: Understanding the True Nature of Mental Chaos. Mental chaos isn't random. It doesn't just happen to unlucky people or those with weak minds. Mental chaos is actually your brain's natural response to modern life. And understanding this is the first step to conquering it. Your brain was designed for a world that no longer exists. For thousands of years, humans lived in small communities with predictable daily routines. Your ancestors woke up, found food, stayed safe, and repeated. Their brains could handle this level of complexity just fine. But today, you're expected to process more information in a single day than your great-grandparents processed in their entire lifetimes. Every notification, every email, every news update, every social media post is demanding a piece of your mental real estate. Your brain is trying to categorize, prioritize, and respond to all of this input simultaneously, and it's simply not equipped for this volume. Think of your mind like a computer. When you have too many programs running at once, what happens? The computer slows down, freezes, or crashes. Your brain does the same thing. It creates mental chaos as a way of saying, I can't handle all of this at once. The racing thoughts, the inability to focus, the feeling of being overwhelmed. These are all symptoms of mental overload. But here's where it gets interesting. Mental chaos feeds on itself. When your mind is chaotic, you make poor decisions. You procrastinate on important tasks, which creates more stress. You avoid difficult conversations, which creates more anxiety. You consume more information to try to feel in control, which creates more chaos. It's a vicious cycle that keeps you trapped in a state of perpetual overwhelm. The worst part, most people try to solve mental chaos by adding more to their lives. They download meditation apps. They try new productivity systems. They read more self-help books. But all of this is just adding more programs to an already overloaded computer. What you need isn't more complexity. What you need is simplicity. What you need is a way to clear the mental clutter and create space for what actually matters. Mental chaos also thrives on uncertainty. When you don't have clear priorities, your brain tries to make everything a priority. When you don't have clear boundaries, your brain treats every input as urgent. When you don't have clear systems, your brain has to make decisions about the same things over and over again. Each decision depletes your mental energy and adds to the chaos. Understanding this is crucial, because it means mental chaos isn't a personal failing. It's a predictable response to an unpredictable environment. And if it's predictable, it can be managed. If it can be managed, it can be eliminated. The key is not to fight the chaos, but to starve it of what it needs to survive. Uncertainty, overwhelm, and mental clutter. Chapter 2: The Hidden Cost of Living in Mental Chaos. Most people underestimate the true cost of mental chaos. They think it's just a minor inconvenience, like having a messy desk or forgetting where they put their keys. But mental chaos is much more destructive than that. It's quietly sabotaging every area of your life. And until you understand the full scope of this damage, you won't have the motivation to change it. Let's start with your productivity. When your mind is chaotic, you're not just less productive, you're actively counterproductive. You spend hours on tasks that should take minutes. You start projects you never finish. You make mistakes that require you to redo work. You miss deadlines because you can't accurately estimate how long things will take. Mental chaos makes you feel busy while accomplishing very little. You're running on a treadmill, exhausting yourself without moving forward. But the productivity loss is just the beginning. Mental chaos destroys your decision-making ability. When your mind is cluttered with competing thoughts and priorities, you can't think clearly about what's important. You make impulsive decisions that you later regret. You avoid making important decisions altogether, which is often worse than making the wrong decision. You second-guess yourself constantly, which erodes your confidence and makes future decisions even harder. Mental chaos also damages your relationships. When your mind is racing, you're not fully present with the people you care about. You're physically there, but mentally you're somewhere else, thinking about your to-do list or worrying about future problems. This creates distance in your relationships. People can sense when you're not really listening, when you're distracted, when you're mentally checked out. Over time, this erodes trust and intimacy. The stress that comes with mental chaos is literally aging you faster. When your mind is constantly in fight-or-flight mode, your body is flooded with stress hormones like cortisol. These hormones suppress your immune system, disrupt your sleep, and accelerate cellular aging. People living in chronic mental chaos often look and feel older than their biological age. They get sick more often, recover more slowly, and experience more chronic health problems. Mental chaos also blocks your ability to enjoy life. When your mind is always racing toward the next problem or deadline, you can't appreciate the present moment. You miss the sunset because you're thinking about tomorrow's meeting. You don't taste your food because you're mentally reviewing your to-do list. You don't enjoy conversations because you're planning what you'll say next. Life becomes a blur of anxiety and urgency with very few moments of genuine peace or joy. Perhaps most tragically, mental chaos prevents you from reaching your potential. When your mental energy is scattered across dozens of competing priorities, you can't focus deeply on what really matters. You can't enter flow states where your best work happens. You can't think strategically about your long-term goals. You become reactive instead of proactive, always putting out fires instead of building something meaningful. The financial cost is also significant. Mental chaos leads to poor financial decisions, impulse purchases, forgotten bills, missed opportunities, procrastination on important financial planning. It also limits your earning potential because you can't perform at your best when your mind is scattered. You miss promotions because you can't demonstrate clear thinking under pressure. You avoid taking risks that could advance your career because you're already overwhelmed by current responsibilities. Mental chaos even affects your sleep. When your mind is cluttered during the day, it doesn't magically clear at bedtime. You lie awake replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, or trying to remember all the things you need to do. Poor sleep then makes mental chaos worse the next day, creating another vicious cycle. The opportunity cost is enormous. Every hour you spend in mental chaos is an hour you're not spending building the life you want. Every day you live in overwhelm is a day you're not moving closer to your goals. Time is the one resource you can never get back, and mental chaos is stealing it from you one scattered thought at a time. Chapter 3. The Simple Method Revealed. Now that you understand what mental chaos really is and what it's costing you, let's talk about the solution. The method I'm about to share with you is deceptively simple, which is exactly why it works. Complex problems don't always require complex solutions. Sometimes the most powerful tools are the simplest ones. I call this the Clear Mind Protocol, and it consists of just 3 steps. Capture, clarify, and control. That's it. No complicated systems, no expensive software, no hours of meditation. Just 3 steps that you can implement immediately and use for the rest of your life. The beauty of this method is that it addresses the root cause of mental chaos, not just the symptoms. Remember, mental chaos happens when your brain is trying to hold too much information while simultaneously trying to process it all. The Clear Mind protocol solves this by removing the processing burden from your brain and transferring it to a simple external system. Think of your brain like a juggler. Right now, you're trying to juggle dozens of balls representing all your thoughts, tasks, worries, and ideas. No matter how skilled you are, eventually you're going to drop something. The Clear Mind protocol doesn't teach you to juggle better. Instead, it gives you a place to safely set down most of those balls so you can focus on juggling just the 1 or 2 that matter most right now. The first step, capture, is about getting everything out of your head and into a trusted external system. This immediately reduces the mental load because your brain no longer has to work so hard to remember everything. The second step, clarify, is about processing all that captured information and deciding what it means and what action, if any, is required. The third step, control, is about implementing systems that prevent mental chaos from building up again. What makes this method so effective is that it works with your brain's natural tendencies instead of against them. Your brain wants to categorize information, but it can't do that effectively when it's overwhelmed. Your brain wants to prioritize tasks, but it can't do that when everything feels urgent. Your brain wants to solve problems, but it can't do that when it's constantly distracted by new inputs. The Clear Mind protocol gives your brain the space and structure it needs to do what it does best. Think clearly, solve problems creatively, and make good decisions. When you remove the chaos, what's left is clarity. When you eliminate the mental clutter, what remains is focus. When you stop trying to hold everything in your head, you free up enormous amounts of mental energy for the things that actually matter. This method has been tested by thousands of people across different professions, different age groups, and different life circumstances. It works for busy executives and overwhelmed parents. It works for students and retirees. It works for creative types and analytical minds. It works because it's based on fundamental principles of how the human brain operates, not on personality preferences or lifestyle choices. The time investment is minimal. The initial setup takes about an hour. The daily maintenance takes about 10 minutes. Compare that to the hours you currently lose to mental chaos, distraction, and overwhelm. This is one of the highest return investments you can make in your life. But perhaps most importantly, this method is sustainable. You're not trying to fight your natural tendencies or maintain superhuman levels of discipline. You're creating a system that supports you even when you're tired, stressed, or facing unexpected challenges. It becomes a foundation that makes everything else in your life easier and more effective. Over the next 2 chapters, I'll walk you through each step of the Clear Mind protocol in detail. You'll learn exactly how to implement each phase, what tools you need, and how to troubleshoot common problems. By the time we're finished, you'll have everything you need to end mental chaos today and maintain mental clarity for life. Chapter 4. Step 1. The Mental Reset Through Complete Capture. The first step of the Clear Mind protocol is capture. And it's the most important step because it creates the foundation for everything else. Capture means getting absolutely everything out of your head and into a trusted external system. Everything. Every task. Every idea. Every worry. Every reminder. Every project. Every commitment. If it's taking up space in your mind, it needs to go into your capture system. Most people resist this step because they think they need to organize everything as they capture it. This is a mistake. During the capture phase, you're not organizing, prioritizing, or analyzing. You're simply doing a mental brain dump. Think of it like cleaning out a cluttered closet. First, you take everything out and put it in a pile. Only then do you sort through what you have. The same principle applies here. Start by finding a quiet space where you won't be interrupted for the next hour. Get a notebook, open a document on your computer, or use whatever capture tool feels most natural to you. The specific tool doesn't matter as much as your commitment to the process. Now, set a timer for 60 minutes and begin writing down everything that's on your mind. Begin with the obvious stuff. The tasks you need to complete today, the emails you need to send, the appointments you need to schedule. But don't stop there. Dig deeper. What projects are you working on? What decisions are you avoiding? What conversations do you need to have? What goals are you thinking about? What problems are you trying to solve? Include the small stuff, too. That thing you need to buy at the store, that phone call you need to make, that file you need to organize, that book you want to read. The seemingly minor items often create the most mental noise because they're easy to forget and hard to prioritize. Getting them out of your head creates an immediate sense of relief. Don't forget about the emotional items. What are you worried about? What's causing you stress? What relationships need attention? What fears are lurking in the background? These psychological burdens are just as important to capture as the practical tasks. You can't address what you don't acknowledge. As you're capturing, you'll notice your mind starting to feel lighter. This isn't your imagination. You're literally reducing the cognitive load on your brain. Each item you write down is one less thing your subconscious has to work to remember. You're freeing up mental processing power that can be redirected toward more important things. Some items will lead to other items. That's normal and expected. If writing down planned vacation reminds you that you also need to research flights and book hotel, write those down, too. Don't try to organize these related items together right now. Just capture everything as it comes to mind. You might worry that you'll forget something important. This is why the capture system needs to be comprehensive and trustworthy. The goal is to create a system that your brain can rely on completely. When your brain trusts that everything important is safely stored outside your head, it can finally relax its vigilant monitoring. Pay attention to the recurring thoughts. These are often the items that create the most mental chaos because they keep circling back into your consciousness. Maybe it's a difficult conversation you've been avoiding or a decision you've been postponing. These recurring items are prime candidates for capture because getting them out of your head will provide immediate relief. Include both urgent and non-urgent items. The capture phase isn't about prioritizing. It's about completeness. That urgent project and that someday goal both deserve space in your external system. You'll deal with prioritization in the next step. Don't edit yourself during this process. If something pops into your mind, write it down, even if it seems silly or unimportant. You can always remove items later, but you can't capture something you've dismissed. This is a judgment-free zone, where quantity matters more than quality. As you near the end of your 60-minute capture session, take a moment to scan different areas of your life. Work, family, health, finances, personal growth, relationships, hobbies. Are there items in each category that deserve to be captured? Often we focus so heavily on work stress that we forget about personal commitments that are equally important. The feeling you have at the end of a complete capture session is remarkable. People often describe it as lightness or spaciousness in their minds. You've taken everything that was swirling around in your head and given it a home outside your brain. Your mind is no longer a storage facility. It's freed up to be what it was meant to be, a thinking and creating machine. This single step alone will provide immediate relief from mental chaos. But to make the relief permanent, you need to move to the second step. Clarify. Chapter 5. Step 2. The Focus Framework through Ruthless Clarification. The second step of the Clear Mind Protocol is clarify. And this is where you transform your brain dump from an overwhelming list into a clear action plan. Everything you captured in Step 1 is raw material. Now, you're going to process that material and decide what it means and what, if anything, you're going to do about it. The key to effective clarification is asking the right question about each item you captured. That question is simple but powerful. What is the next action required to move this forward? Not the final outcome, not the perfect solution, just the very next physical action you would need to take if you decided to work on this item. Start with the first item on your capture list. Let's say you wrote down plan vacation. That's not an action, it's an outcome. The next action might be research destinations online or call travel agent or check calendar for available dates. The key is to identify something specific and actionable that you could actually do. Some items won't require any action at all. Maybe you wrote down worried about mom's health. The clarification process might reveal that there's no action you can take right now, but you want to schedule a call with her this weekend to check in. Or maybe you realize this is general anxiety that you want to discuss with a friend or counselor. The goal is to be honest about what, if anything, can be done. Other items might require multiple actions. Plan vacation might actually involve researching destinations, checking calendars, booking flights, finding accommodations, and arranging pet care. When you encounter these multi-step projects, write down just the very next action for now. You can plan the other steps later once you've completed the first one. Pay special attention to items that have been on your mental to-do list for weeks or months. These chronic mental residents are often vague or overwhelming, which is why your brain keeps avoiding them. The clarification process breaks them down into manageable pieces. Get in shape becomes research local gyms or schedule doctor appointment for physical. Organize finances becomes gather last 3 bank statements or download budgeting app. Some items will turn out to be wishes rather than commitments. Learn Spanish might sound nice, but if you're honest with yourself, you don't have the time or motivation to pursue it right now. That's perfectly fine. Move it to a someday maybe list and remove it from your active mental load. You can always revisit it later. Be ruthless about delegation and elimination. Not everything on your list needs to be done by you. Some items can be delegated to others. Some can be eliminated entirely when you realize they're not actually important. The goal isn't to do everything. It's to be intentional about what you choose to do. Create categories as you clarify. You'll likely end up with actions you can do immediately, actions that require scheduling, actions that depend on other people, and actions that need to wait for specific circumstances. You might also have reference materials that don't require action, but are worth keeping for future reference. For actions that require significant time or energy, consider whether they align with your current priorities and goals. Just because something is possible doesn't mean it's wise. The clarification process is an opportunity to be selective about how you spend your most valuable resource: your time and attention. Don't get stuck in perfectionism during this phase. If you're not sure about the next action for a particular item, make your best guess and move on. You can always refine your thinking later. The goal is progress, not perfection. Some items will reveal themselves to be symptoms of larger issues. Maybe you keep capturing tasks related to household organization and you realize the real issue is that your living space doesn't support your lifestyle. Or maybe you keep capturing work-related stress items and you realize you need to have a conversation with your manager about workload. Pay attention to these patterns. They often point to important underlying issues that deserve attention. As you work through your capture list, you'll start to see themes and priorities emerge. This is valuable information that will help you in the third step of the protocol. You're not just organizing tasks. You're gaining insight into what's really important to you and where you might be out of alignment. The clarification process typically takes about twice as long as the capture process. If you spent an hour capturing, plan to spend about 2 hours clarifying. This might seem like a significant time investment, but consider how much time you currently waste on mental chaos, indecision, and starting tasks you don't finish. The clarification process is an investment that pays dividends every day. By the end of the clarification phase, you'll have transformed mental chaos into mental clarity. Instead of a swirling mass of competing thoughts, you'll have a clear inventory of your commitments and a specific next action for each one. Your brain can finally relax because it knows exactly what needs to be done and when. But to keep this clarity permanent, you need to implement systems that prevent chaos from building up again. That's what we'll cover in the next chapter. Control. Chapter 6. Step 3. The maintenance system through strategic control. The third and final step of the Clear Mind protocol is control. And this is what separates temporary relief from permanent transformation. You've captured everything from your mind and clarified what each item means. Now you need to create systems that prevent mental chaos from building up again. Control is about establishing boundaries, routines, and habits that maintain your mental clarity over time. The foundation of the control step is understanding that mental chaos isn't a one-time problem you solve. It's an ongoing challenge you manage. New information enters your life every day. New responsibilities emerge. New problems arise. Without proper systems in place, these new inputs will quickly rebuild the mental chaos you just cleared. Control gives you the tools to handle new inputs as they arrive before they can accumulate and overwhelm you. The first element of control is establishing clear boundaries around information input. This means being intentional about what you allow into your mental space. Just as you wouldn't leave your front door open and let anyone walk into your house, you shouldn't leave your mind open to every piece of information that wants your attention. You need mental gatekeepers. Start by auditing your information diet. What news sources do you consume? What social media accounts do you follow? What podcasts do you listen to? What newsletters do you subscribe to? Each of these is a potential source of mental chaos. Information that doesn't serve your goals, support your values, or improve your life is mental junk food. It fills up space in your mind without providing nutrition. Implement specific times for consuming information rather than allowing it to interrupt you throughout the day. Check email at designated times instead of whenever notifications appear. Read news during a specific window rather than constantly scrolling for updates. This prevents the constant mental interruption that fragments your attention and rebuilds chaos. The second element of control is creating capture habits that prevent new inputs from accumulating in your mind. Remember, the goal is to keep your mind clear by immediately transferring new information to your external system. This requires developing what I call capture reflexes, automatic behaviors that redirect mental clutter before it can take root. Carry a capture tool with you at all times. This might be a small notebook, a voice recorder app on your phone, or a simple note-taking app. When a task, idea, or concern pops into your mind, immediately capture it instead of trying to remember it. This single habit will prevent the majority of new mental chaos from accumulating. Develop the habit of weekly reviews. Every week, spend 30 minutes processing everything you've captured since your last review. Apply the same clarification process you learned in Step 2. Identify the next action for each item. Eliminate what's no longer relevant and organize what remains. This prevents your external system from becoming as chaotic as your mind once was. The third element of control is creating systems for managing your attention and energy. Mental chaos often returns when you try to focus on too many things at once. Control means being selective about where you direct your mental resources and protective about maintaining that focus once you've committed to it. Implement time blocking for your most important work. Instead of keeping a simple to-do list, assign specific time slots to your most critical tasks. This prevents the decision fatigue that comes from constantly choosing what to work on next and ensures that your most important work gets your best mental energy. Create physical and digital environments that support focus rather than distract from it. Clear your workspace of unnecessary items. Turn off non-essential notifications. Use website blockers during focused work time. Your environment should make it easier to maintain mental clarity, not harder. The fourth element of control is developing decision-making frameworks that reduce mental load. Many people experience mental chaos because they're constantly making the same types of decisions over and over again. Every decision requires mental energy, and repetitive decisions are particularly draining because they feel both important and trivial. At the same time, create standard operating procedures for routine decisions. What will you eat for breakfast? When will you exercise? How will you handle email? What will you wear to work? The specific decisions matter less than having a system, so you're not using precious mental energy on routine choices. Establish clear criteria for bigger decisions before you need to make them. What factors will you consider when evaluating job opportunities? What standards will you use when deciding whether to take on new commitments? Having these frameworks in place prevents you from having to think through the same decision-making process repeatedly. The fifth element of control is building recovery systems for when mental chaos does return. Despite your best efforts, there will be times when life overwhelms your systems. Maybe you get sick, face a family emergency, or take on an unexpectedly demanding project. Control means having a plan for getting back on track quickly when things go off course. Create a simplified version of your system that you can implement during high-stress periods. Maybe your normal weekly review takes an hour, but your emergency version takes 15 minutes. Maybe your normal capture system involves detailed organization, but your stress version just dumps everything in one place for later sorting. Having these backup systems prevents temporary overwhelm from becoming permanent chaos. Schedule regular system maintenance just like you would schedule maintenance for your car or your home. Once a month, review your entire system and make adjustments. Are your boundaries still appropriate? Are your capture habits still working? Are your decision-making frameworks still relevant? Systems that aren't maintained will eventually break down. The control step also involves managing your energy cycles rather than just your time. Mental clarity requires mental energy, and mental energy fluctuates throughout the day and week. Working with your natural energy patterns instead of against them is a crucial part of maintaining long-term mental clarity. Identify when you have the most mental energy and protect that time for your most important work. For most people, this is first thing in the morning. But everyone's different. The key is to recognize your pattern and structure your day accordingly. Use your peak energy for tasks that require deep thinking and creativity. And save routine tasks for when your energy is lower. Finally, control means accepting that perfect mental clarity isn't the goal. Sustainable mental clarity island. You're not trying to eliminate every stray thought or achieve some impossible state of Zen-like focus. You're creating systems that keep mental chaos at manageable levels so you can think clearly about what matters most. Some mental activity is normal and healthy. The goal is preventing that activity from becoming overwhelming chaos. The control step is what transforms the clear mind protocol from a one-time exercise into a way of life. When you master control, you're no longer fighting mental chaos. You're preventing it. You're no longer reacting to overwhelm. You're staying ahead of it. You've created a sustainable system for maintaining mental clarity regardless of what life throws at you. Chapter 7. The Implementation Blueprint. Making the method work in real life. Now that you understand all 3 steps of the Clear Mind Protocol, let's talk about implementation. Understanding a system and successfully implementing it are 2 very different things. Implementation is where most people struggle. Not because the system is too complex, but because they try to change too much too quickly, or they don't account for the realities of their current life situation. The key to successful implementation is starting small and building momentum gradually. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. In fact, trying to do so will likely lead to failure and discourage you from continuing. Instead, focus on implementing one element at a time until it becomes automatic, then add the next element. Begin with a mini version of the capture process. Don't try to capture everything in your life all at once. Instead, choose one area that's causing you the most mental chaos right now. Maybe it's work tasks. Maybe it's household responsibilities. Maybe it's personal projects. Spend just 15 minutes doing a brain dump in that one area. Get everything out of your head and onto paper or into a digital tool. Experience the relief that comes from this focused capture. Even if it's just in one area of your life, this immediate positive feedback will motivate you to continue and expand the process. Success breeds success, and small wins create the momentum needed for bigger changes. Choose your capture tool thoughtfully. The best tool is the one you'll actually use consistently. Some people prefer physical notebooks because writing by hand feels more natural and doesn't require a device. Others prefer digital tools because they're always accessible and easy to search. Some people use a combination, a physical notebook for quick capture and a digital system for organization. The specific tool matters less than consistency. Whether you choose a simple notebook, a sophisticated app, or something in between, commit to using it for at least 2 weeks before deciding if it's working for you. Tool switching can become a form of procrastination where you spend more time looking for the perfect system than actually using one. Start with a simplified version of the clarification process for your first week. Focus on just identifying whether each captured item requires action or not. Don't worry about defining the perfect next action or organizing items into complex categories. Just sort everything into 2 buckets. Requires action and no action required. This basic sorting will provide immediate clarity and make the full clarification process feel less overwhelming when you're ready for it. Implement the control elements gradually. Start with just one boundary, one routine, or one decision-making framework. Maybe you decide to check email only 3 times per day instead of constantly. Maybe you establish a 5-minute end-of-day capture routine. Maybe you create a standard decision framework for social invitations. Pick one control element that addresses your biggest source of ongoing mental chaos and focus on that until it becomes automatic. Plan for resistance, both internal and external. Your brain will initially resist these changes because it's comfortable with familiar patterns, even if those patterns are causing problems. You might feel anxious when you're not constantly checking email. You might feel guilty when you're not immediately responding to every request. This resistance is normal and temporary. Expect it, plan for it and push through it. External resistance might come from people in your life who are used to you being constantly available and reactive. When you establish boundaries around your time and attention, some people might push back. They might send urgent emails about non-urgent matters or interrupt you during focused work time. Stay firm with your boundaries while communicating clearly about when and how you'll be available. Create accountability for yourself by tracking your progress. This doesn't need to be complex. A simple checklist of daily habits or a weekly assessment of how you're feeling about your mental clarity will suffice. The goal is to create awareness of your progress and identify when you need to recommit to the system. Design your environment to support your new habits. If you want to do a daily capture routine, put your capture tool somewhere you'll see it every day. If you want to limit information consumption, remove news apps from your phone's home screen. If you want to maintain focus during work, create a dedicated workspace that's free from distractions. Your environment should make good choices easier and bad choices harder. Prepare for setbacks and have a recovery plan. There will be days when you don't follow your system, weeks when life gets chaotic, and moments when you feel like giving up entirely. This is normal and doesn't mean you've failed. What matters is how quickly you get back on track. Have a plan for restarting. Maybe it's a quick 10-minute brain dump. Maybe it's a simplified version of your normal routine. Maybe it's just recommitting to one key habit. Consider finding an implementation partner. This could be a friend, family member, or colleague who's also interested in reducing mental chaos. You can share your progress, troubleshoot challenges together, and hold each other accountable. Having someone else invested in your success significantly increases your chances of long-term implementation. Start measuring the results in ways that matter to you. Maybe you track how often you feel overwhelmed, how productive you feel at work, how present you are with your family, or how well you sleep. Choose metrics that reflect your personal goals and values. Seeing concrete improvement in areas you care about will motivate you to continue when the initial enthusiasm wears off. Be patient with the process. Most habits take at least 2 to 3 weeks to feel natural and 6 to 8 weeks to become automatic. The Clear Mind protocol involves multiple habit changes. So, expect the full implementation to take 2 to 3 months. This might seem like a long time, but consider how long you've been dealing with mental chaos. Investing a few months to solve this problem permanently is one of the best investments you can make. Remember that implementation isn't about perfection. It's about progress. You don't need to follow every element of the system perfectly every day. You need to follow enough of it consistently enough to maintain clarity and prevent chaos from rebuilding. Some days you'll use the full system. Other days you'll use a simplified version, and some days you might skip it entirely. What matters is the overall trend toward greater clarity and less chaos. Finally, customize the system to fit your life, not the other way around. The Clear Mind protocol provides a framework, but you need to adapt it to your specific circumstances, personality, and preferences. A parent with young children will implement it differently than a single professional, and creative type will use different tools than an analytical person. The principles remain the same, but the specific implementation should reflect your unique situation. Chapter 8. Overcoming the most common obstacles and setbacks, even with the best intentions and a clear implementation plan. You'll encounter obstacles as you work to establish the Clear Mind protocol. These obstacles are predictable and solvable if you know what to expect and how to handle them. In this chapter, we'll explore the most common challenges people face and provide specific strategies for overcoming each one. The first major obstacle is the perfectionism trap. Many people start implementing the system with great enthusiasm but then get discouraged when they can't maintain perfect consistency. They miss a day of capture, let their clarification backlog build up, or fail to maintain a boundary they set. Instead of adjusting and continuing, they conclude that the system doesn't work for them and abandon it entirely. The solution to perfectionism is embracing what I call good enough consistency. You don't need to execute the system perfectly to get significant benefits. Following it imperfectly is infinitely better than not following it at all. If you miss a day, restart the next day. If you let things build up, do a quick catch-up session. If you break a boundary, re-establish it. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. The second common obstacle is system overwhelm. This happens when people try to implement too many elements of the protocol at once, or when they create overly complex systems that require more maintenance than they provide benefit. Instead of creating clarity, the system itself becomes a source of mental chaos. The solution is radical simplification. Strip your system down to its essential elements: a simple capture method, a basic clarification process, and 1 or 2 key control mechanisms. You can always add complexity later once the basics are working smoothly. Remember, the goal is to reduce mental load, not increase it. The third obstacle is social pressure. This occurs when family, friends, or colleagues resist your new boundaries and systems. They might expect immediate responses to non-urgent communications, interrupt you during focused work time, or criticize your new habits as being too rigid or antisocial. Handle social pressure by clearly communicating your intentions and the benefits you're experiencing. Most people will support you once they understand that you're not trying to be difficult. You're trying to be more effective and present. Set clear expectations about when you'll be available and how people can reach you for truly urgent matters. Be consistent with your boundaries so people learn to respect them. The fourth obstacle is capture resistance. Some people find it difficult to get into the habit of immediate capture. They either forget to use their capture tool, feel silly writing down simple tasks, or worry that they're being too obsessive about organization. Overcome capture resistance by starting with just one type of item. Maybe you only capture work tasks for the first week, Then add personal tasks the second week. Make capture as easy as possible by having your tool readily available and using the simplest format that works. Remember that capture is about reducing mental load, not about being organized for its own sake. The fifth obstacle is clarification paralysis. This happens when people get stuck trying to define the perfect next action for every item they've captured. They spend too much time analyzing and not enough time doing. The clarification process becomes a form of productive procrastination. Solve clarification paralysis by setting time limits and accepting good enough decisions. Give yourself a maximum of 2 minutes to clarify each item. If you can't figure out the perfect next action in that time, make your best guess and move on. You can always refine your thinking later when you actually start working on the task. The sixth obstacle is system drift. Over time, people gradually stop following the protocol as rigorously as they initially did. They skip weekly reviews, let their capture tool get cluttered, or stop maintaining their boundaries. The system slowly degrades until they're back where they started. Prevent system drift by building in regular maintenance routines and accountability measures. Schedule weekly system reviews in your calendar like any other important appointment. Set up monthly check-ins with yourself to assess how well the system is working and what adjustments might be needed. Consider finding an accountability partner who's also using the system. The seventh obstacle is all or nothing thinking. Some people believe that if they can't follow the system perfectly, there's no point in following it at all. They abandon the entire protocol when they encounter busy periods, travel or life disruptions. Combat all or nothing thinking by creating simplified versions of your system for different life circumstances. Have a minimal viable system that you can use during busy periods. A travel version that works when you're away from your normal environment and an emergency version for crisis situations. Maintaining some version of the system is always better than abandoning it entirely. The eighth obstacle is tool obsession. Some people get caught up in finding the perfect capture tool, the ideal app, or the optimal organizational system. They spend more time researching and switching tools than actually using them to reduce mental chaos. Overcome tool obsession by committing to one system for at least a month before considering any changes. Focus on the principles rather than the tools. Remember that the most sophisticated tool that you don't use consistently is less valuable than the simplest tool that you use every day. The ninth obstacle is overwhelmed during initial capture. Some people get discouraged during their first comprehensive brain dump because they realize just how much has been cluttering their minds. Seeing everything written down can feel overwhelming rather than relieving. Handle initial overwhelm by remembering that these items were already in your mind creating chaos. Getting them onto paper doesn't create new problems. It reveals existing ones that you can now address systematically. Break down your capture list into smaller chunks and tackle them one at a time. Celebrate the progress of getting clarity on what you're dealing with. The 10th obstacle is maintenance fatigue. After the initial excitement of implementing the system wears off, some people find the ongoing maintenance tedious or burdensome. The daily capture, weekly reviews, and boundary maintenance start to feel like chores rather than helpful practices. Prevent maintenance fatigue by regularly reminding yourself of the benefits you're experiencing. Keep track of specific ways the system has improved your life. Better sleep, increased productivity, reduced stress, improved relationships. When maintenance feels burdensome, review these benefits to renew your motivation. Also look for ways to streamline your maintenance routines without compromising their effectiveness. Remember that encountering obstacles doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something different. Any significant change in how you operate will face resistance both from your own habits and from your environment. The key is to expect these obstacles, prepare for them, and persist through them. Every obstacle you overcome makes your system stronger and your mental clarity more sustainable. Chapter 9: Advanced Strategies for Maintaining Long-Term Mental Clarity. Once you've mastered the basic clear mind protocol and overcome the initial implementation challenges, you're ready for advanced strategies that will deepen your mental clarity and make it even more sustainable over time. These techniques build on the foundation you've already established and help you handle increasingly complex situations while maintaining your mental equilibrium. The first advanced strategy is contextual switching. This involves creating different versions of your system for different roles and environments in your life. You might have one capture and organization approach for work, another for home, and another for personal projects. Each context has its own requirements and constraints, and your system should reflect these differences. For example, your work context might require more formal project management, detailed time tracking, and integration with team communication tools. Your home context might focus more on family coordination, household maintenance, and personal relationships. Your personal growth context might emphasize learning goals, creative projects, and long-term vision work. Having distinct but connected systems for each context prevents role confusion and ensures that nothing falls through the cracks. Develop transition rituals that help you switch between contexts cleanly. This might be a 5-minute review at the end of your workday to capture any remaining work items and mentally shift to home mode. Or it might be a Sunday evening session where you review your personal projects and prepare for the upcoming work week. These rituals create psychological boundaries that prevent mental spillover between different areas of your life. The second advanced strategy is energy-based planning. Instead of just managing your time, you actively manage your mental energy by aligning your most demanding tasks with your peak cognitive hours. This requires developing a deep understanding of your natural energy rhythms and designing your schedule accordingly. Track your energy levels throughout the day for at least 2 weeks. Note when you feel most alert, creative, and focused, and when you feel tired, distracted, or sluggish. Look for patterns related to time of day, meals, exercise, sleep quality, and other factors. Use this information to structure your day so that your most important cognitive work happens during your peak energy windows. Create an energy budget just like you would create a financial budget. Recognize that you have limited mental energy each day and spend it intentionally on your highest priorities. This might mean saying no to low-value meetings that drain your energy or batching similar tasks together to minimize cognitive switching costs. The third advanced strategy is strategic ignorance. This involves consciously choosing what not to pay attention to, what not to optimize, and what not to worry about. In our information-rich world, the ability to ignore irrelevant information is just as important as the ability to process relevant information. Develop clear criteria for what deserves your mental attention and what doesn't. This might include financial thresholds for decisions you'll spend time researching, relationship boundaries for conflicts you'll engage with, or career criteria for opportunities you'll consider. Having these filters in place prevents you from wasting mental energy on things that don't align with your priorities. Practice productive forgetting by intentionally letting go of information and commitments that are no longer relevant. This might mean deleting old files, unsubscribing from irrelevant email lists, or ending commitments that no longer serve your goals. Regularly pruning your information environment keeps it focused and manageable. The fourth advanced strategy is metacognition enhancement. This means developing greater awareness of your own thinking patterns and mental processes. When you understand how your mind works, you can optimize it more effectively and catch mental chaos before it builds up. Develop the habit of periodic mental check-ins throughout the day. Ask yourself questions like, how am I feeling right now? What am I thinking about? Is my current mental state serving my goals? This awareness allows you to make real-time adjustments to your focus and energy allocation. Learn to recognize your personal warning signs of developing mental chaos. Maybe it's when you start checking email compulsively, or when you feel unable to decide what to work on next, or when you notice yourself procrastinating on important tasks. Identifying these early warning signs allows you to implement corrective measures before chaos fully develops. The fifth advanced strategy is systematic anticipation. This involves proactively identifying and preparing for situations that typically create mental chaos in your life. Instead of reactively dealing with chaos after it develops, you prevent it by anticipating challenging periods and preparing accordingly. Create scenario plans for predictable challenging situations. How will you maintain mental clarity during busy work periods? What will you do when you're traveling? How will you handle family emergencies or health issues? Having plans in place reduces the mental energy required to cope with these situations when they arise. Develop early warning systems for stress and overwhelm. This might include regular check-ins with trusted friends or family members, periodic reviews of your commitments and energy levels, or objective measures like sleep quality or productivity metrics. Early detection allows for early intervention. The sixth advanced strategy is cognitive load balancing. This involves actively managing the complexity and difficulty of your tasks to maintain optimal mental performance throughout the day and week. Not all mental work is created equal, and strategic sequencing can dramatically improve your effectiveness. Sequence your tasks based on their cognitive demands rather than just their deadlines or importance. Start your day with the most cognitively demanding work when your mental energy is highest. Save routine administrative tasks for when your energy is lower. Alternate between high focus and low focus activities to prevent mental fatigue. Create cognitive recovery periods in your schedule. These are short breaks specifically designed to restore your mental energy rather than just pass time. This might include meditation, light exercise, time in nature, or engaging in a creative hobby. The key is choosing activities that genuinely refresh your mind rather than deplete it further. The seventh advanced strategy is system evolution. Your mental clarity system should grow and change as your life circumstances change. What works during a stable period might not work during a career transition. What works for a single person might not work for a parent. Advanced practitioners regularly evolve their systems to match their changing needs. Schedule quarterly reviews of your entire system. What's working well? What's causing friction? What's changed in your life that might require system adjustments? Use these reviews to refine and improve your approach rather than just maintaining the status quo. Experiment with new techniques and tools, but do so systematically. Try one new element at a time for a defined period. Then evaluate its effectiveness before deciding whether to keep it. This prevents your system from becoming cluttered with unproven additions while still allowing for continuous improvement. These advanced strategies transform mental clarity from a destination into a journey. You're not just maintaining the system you've built, you're continuously optimizing it to handle whatever challenges life presents. This approach ensures that your mental clarity remains robust and sustainable regardless of how your circumstances change. Chapter 10. Transforming your entire life through mental clarity. Mental clarity isn't just about reducing stress or improving productivity, though it certainly does both of those things. When you truly master the art of maintaining a clear mind, it creates a ripple effect that transforms every area of your life. The clarity you develop becomes the foundation for better decisions, stronger relationships, greater creativity, and deeper fulfillment. Let's start with decision M because this is where mental clarity has its most immediate and dramatic impact. When your mind is cluttered with competing thoughts and unresolved commitments, every decision feels difficult and uncertain. You second-guess yourself, procrastinate on important choices, and often make impulsive decisions just to escape the discomfort of indecision. But when your mind is clear, decision-making becomes dramatically easier and more effective. You can see your options clearly, evaluate them against your values and priorities and choose confidently. You're not distracted by mental noise, so you can think deeply about what really matters. You make fewer decisions you later regret because you're making them from a place of clarity rather than chaos. Mental clarity also improves the quality of your decisions by giving you access to your intuition. When your mind is racing with conscious thoughts, it's hard to hear the subtle signals from your subconscious mind. But when you quiet the mental noise, you can access deeper wisdom that combines logical analysis with intuitive understanding. The best decisions often come from this integration of rational and intuitive thinking. Mental clarity transforms your relationships by improving your presence and communication. When your mind is chaotic, you're never fully present with the people you care about. You're physically there, but mentally you're somewhere else. Thinking about your to-do list, worrying about future problems, or replaying past conversations. This creates distance in your relationships, even when you're trying to connect. Clear mental space allows you to be fully present with others. You listen more deeply, respond more thoughtfully, and connect more authentically. People can sense when you're really there with them, and this presence deepens intimacy and trust. Your relationships become more satisfying because you're bringing your whole self to them instead of just a distracted fraction. Mental clarity also improves your communication skills. When your thoughts are organized and your priorities are clear, you can express yourself more effectively. You speak with confidence because you know what you think and why you think it. You're less likely to say things you don't mean or make commitments you can't keep because you're responding from clarity rather than reactivity. The impact on your creativity and innovation is profound. Mental chaos is the enemy of creative thinking. Creativity requires space, silence, and the ability to make unexpected connections between ideas. When your mind is cluttered with urgent tasks and competing priorities, there's no room for the kind of expansive thinking that leads to breakthrough insights. Mental clarity creates the space for what psychologists call diffuse thinking, the relaxed, wandering state of mind that often produces creative solutions. When you're not constantly thinking about what you need to do next, your mind is free to explore, experiment, and make novel connections. Many of the best ideas come during these periods of mental quiet. Clear mental space also improves your ability to learn and grow. Learning requires focused attention, and mental chaos fragments your attention across multiple competing concerns. When your mind is clear, you can engage deeply with new information, integrate it with what you already know, and apply it effectively. You become a more effective student of life because you can focus fully on whatever you're trying to learn. Mental clarity enhances your emotional regulation and resilience. When your mind is chaotic, small problems feel like major crises because you don't have the mental space to put them in perspective. Every challenge feels overwhelming because it's competing with dozens of other concerns for your attention. But when your mind is clear, you can respond to challenges from a place of calm strength rather than reactive panic. Clear thinking also helps you identify the root causes of problems rather than just treating symptoms when you're overwhelmed. You tend to react to whatever feels most urgent rather than addressing what's most important. Mental clarity gives you the perspective to see the underlying patterns and systems that create problems so you can solve them more effectively. The financial impact of mental clarity is often overlooked but significant. Mental chaos leads to poor financial decisions, impulse purchases, forgotten bills, missed opportunities, and procrastination on important financial planning. When your mind is clear, you can think strategically about your finances, make decisions aligned with your long-term goals, and avoid the costly mistakes that come from reactive thinking. Mental clarity also enhances your professional effectiveness and career trajectory. Clear thinking is a competitive advantage in almost every field. You can solve problems more effectively, communicate more persuasively, and lead with greater confidence. You're more likely to be seen as reliable and competent because you follow through on commitments and think strategically about challenges. Perhaps most importantly, mental clarity leads to greater life satisfaction and fulfillment. When your mind is chaotic, it's hard to appreciate what you have or enjoy present moments. You're always thinking about what's next, what's wrong, or what needs to be fixed. Life becomes a blur of anxiety and urgency with very little genuine joy or satisfaction. Mental clarity allows you to actually experience your life rather than just survive it. You can appreciate simple pleasures, celebrate achievements, and find meaning in daily activities. You're not constantly rushing towards some future state of happiness. You can find contentment in the present moment while still working toward meaningful goals. The transformation goes beyond individual benefits. When you operate from mental clarity, you become a more positive influence on everyone around you. Your calm presence helps others feel more at ease. Your clear thinking helps solve group problems more effectively. Your emotional stability provides a foundation that others can rely on. Mental clarity also aligns you more closely with your authentic values and priorities. When your mind is chaotic, you often react to whatever seems most urgent rather than focusing on what's most important. You might spend years pursuing goals that don't really matter to you simply because you never had the mental space to consider what you actually want from life. Clear thinking gives you the perspective to regularly evaluate whether your actions align with your values. You can make conscious choices about how to spend your time and energy rather than just reacting to external demands. This alignment between values and actions is a key component of psychological well-being and life satisfaction. Finally, mental clarity creates a positive feedback loop that makes all these benefits self-reinforcing. As you experience better relationships, improved decision-making, enhanced creativity and greater fulfillment, you become even more motivated to maintain your mental clarity practices. The benefits compound over time, creating an upward spiral of improvement across all areas of your life. The transformation isn't just about eliminating the negative aspects of mental chaos. It's about unlocking the positive potential that was always there but couldn't emerge through the noise. Mental clarity doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you've always been underneath the chaos. It allows your best self to emerge and flourish in ways that seemed impossible when your mind was cluttered and overwhelmed. Chapter 11. Real-world applications. The method in action across different life situations. To truly understand the power of the Clear Mind Protocol, let's examine how it works in specific real-world situations. Every person's life is unique, but the patterns of mental chaos and the solutions for overcoming them are remarkably consistent across different circumstances. By seeing how others have applied this method to their specific challenges, you'll better understand how to adapt it to your own situation. Consider Sarah, a working mother of 2 young children who was drowning in the competing demands of her career, family responsibilities, and personal goals. Before implementing the Clear Mind Protocol, her days felt like a constant fire drill. She would start each morning already feeling behind, trying to juggle getting kids ready for school while mentally reviewing her work presentations and worrying about household tasks that needed attention. Sarah's breakthrough came when she realized that her mental chaos wasn't caused by having too much to do, though she certainly was busy. It was caused by trying to hold all of her responsibilities in her mind simultaneously. Her brain was working overtime trying to remember, prioritize, and manage dozens of competing commitments without any external support system. She started with a comprehensive capture session on a Sunday evening after the kids were in bed. For 90 minutes, she wrote down everything that had been circling in her mind. Work projects, school events, household repairs, birthday gifts to buy, doctor appointments to schedule, conversations she needed to have with her husband, and even small things like replace burnt-out light bulb in hallway. The list filled 4 pages, and seeing it all written down was both overwhelming and relieving. The clarification process revealed something important. Many of the items creating mental stress weren't actually her responsibility or weren't as urgent as they felt. The school fundraiser committee work could be delegated to other volunteers. The kitchen renovation could wait until next year. Several work projects were actually dependencies waiting on other people's input. By clarifying what truly required her action versus what was just occupying mental space, she immediately reduced her cognitive load by about 30%. For control, Sarah implemented 3 key boundaries. First, she established transition buffers between work and home. Instead of taking calls in the car while picking up kids, she used that 15-minute drive to mentally shift contexts and prepare to be fully present with her family. Second, she created a weekly family planning session where she and her husband reviewed schedules, discussed upcoming events, and divided responsibilities. This prevented the constant mental juggling of family logistics. Third, she implemented a brain dump routine every evening, spending just 5 minutes capturing anything new that had emerged during the day. The results were transformative. Within 3 weeks, Sarah reported feeling more in control. Despite her schedule being just as busy, she was more present with her children because she wasn't mentally reviewing work tasks during family time. Her work performance improved because she could focus deeply during work hours instead of being distracted by personal concerns. Most importantly, she rediscovered a sense of calm that she had lost years earlier when life had gradually become more complex. Now, consider Marcus, a recent college graduate, starting his first corporate job while also trying to maintain friendships, date, manage student loans, and figure out his long-term career direction. His mental chaos manifested differently than Sarah's. Where she felt overwhelmed by too many responsibilities, he felt paralyzed by too many possibilities and unclear priorities. Marcus's challenge was that everything felt important, but nothing felt urgent. He would spend hours researching career options. Instead of excelling in his current role, he would worry about student loan repayment strategies. Instead of focusing on building professional skills that would increase his earning potential, he would start learning new skills but abandon them when other opportunities caught his attention. His mind was constantly spinning between different potential futures, preventing him from making progress in any direction. The capture process revealed that Marcus was trying to solve his entire future all at once. His mind was cycling through dozens of long-term possibilities and trying to evaluate them simultaneously. This created analysis paralysis because he could never gather enough information to make perfect decisions about complex long-term questions. Clarification helped Marcus distinguish between decisions that needed to be made now and those that could be deferred. He realized that many of his career concerns were based on hypothetical scenarios that might never occur. Instead of trying to map out his entire career trajectory, he identified the next logical step. Excelling in his current role and building a foundation of professional skills and relationships for control, Marcus implemented a future planning quad. He allowed himself 1 hour per week to think about long-term career planning, networking, and skill development. Outside of that hour, when his mind started wandering to future possibilities, he would capture the thought and defer it to his weekly planning session. This prevented future-focused anxiety from interfering with present-moment productivity. He also created decision-making frameworks for common situations. For social invitations, he established criteria based on his current priorities, building relationships with colleagues, maintaining close friendships, and managing his budget. For learning opportunities, he committed to finishing one skill development course before starting another. These frameworks eliminated the mental energy required to make the same types of decisions repeatedly. Marcus's transformation was less dramatic, but equally important. He began making steady progress in his career because he could focus on present opportunities instead of constantly second-guessing his direction. His anxiety about the future decreased because he had a system for addressing those concerns systematically rather than randomly. His overall life satisfaction improved because he was living his actual life instead of constantly planning hypothetical futures. Let's examine one more case. Patricia, a recently retired teacher who was struggling with the transition from a highly structured professional life to the open-ended freedom of retirement. Her mental chaos was different from both Sarah's overwhelm and Marcus's paralysis. Patricia felt adrift and purposeless despite having looked forward to retirement for years. During her teaching career, Patricia's priorities were largely determined by external structures, curriculum requirements, student needs, administrative deadlines, and school calendars. These external frameworks had provided clarity about how to spend her time and energy. Without them, she felt lost and found herself filling her days with busy work that wasn't particularly meaningful or satisfying. Patricia's capture session revealed that her mental chaos wasn't caused by too many commitments or too many options. It was caused by a lack of clear purpose and direction. She had plenty of time but wasn't sure how to use it meaningfully. Her mind was constantly searching for the right way to spend her retirement, creating anxiety about wasting this precious life phase. The clarification process helped Patricia distinguish between activities that energized her and those that merely filled time. She realized that many of the volunteer opportunities and social activities she had committed to weren't aligned with her values or interests. She had said yes to them because she felt she should be busy, not because they brought her joy or meaning for control. Patricia created her own structure to replace the external structure she had lost. She established weekly rhythms that included time for reading, gardening, visiting family, and pursuing a photography hobby she had neglected during her teaching years. She also implemented a monthly reflection practice where she evaluated how she was spending her time and whether it aligned with her retirement goals. Most importantly, Patricia learned to reframe her relationship with unstructured time. Instead of seeing open calendar space as a problem to be filled, she began to appreciate it as an opportunity for spontaneity and present moment awareness. This shift in perspective eliminated much of the anxiety that had been driving her mental chaos. These three examples illustrate how the same underlying principles can be adapted to very different life situations. Whether you're overwhelmed by too many responsibilities, paralyzed by too many options, or adrift without clear direction, the Clear Mind Protocol provides a framework for creating clarity and regaining control. The key insight from these real-world applications is that mental chaos isn't really about external circumstances. It's about the relationship between your mind and those circumstances. When you have systems for capturing, clarifying, and controlling your mental inputs, you can maintain clarity regardless of what life throws at you. The specific tools and techniques might vary, but the underlying approach remains consistent. Get everything out of your head. Decide what it means and create systems to prevent chaos from rebuilding. Chapter 12. Adapting the method for special circumstances and life transitions. Life isn't static and neither should your mental clarity system be. There are certain periods and circumstances that create unique challenges for maintaining mental clarity. Major life transitions, crisis situations, periods of intense change, and special circumstances all require adaptations to the basic Clear Mind Protocol. Understanding how to modify your approach during these times ensures that your system remains effective regardless of what life presents. Let's start with major life transitions because these are some of the most challenging periods for mental clarity. Whether you're changing careers, getting married, becoming a parent, moving to a new city, or going through a divorce, transitions create a perfect storm for mental chaos. Your old routines and systems may no longer apply. Your priorities are shifting and you're dealing with both the practical logistics of change and the emotional processing that comes with it. During transitions, the capture process becomes even more critical because your mind is processing not just current responsibilities but also fears, hopes, and uncertainties about the future. Your brain dump during a transition period should include emotional items alongside practical ones. Capture your worries about the change, your excitement about new possibilities, your grief about what you're leaving behind, and your uncertainty about what comes next. The key modification during transitions is creating separate capture categories for different aspects of the change. You might have a logistics category for practical tasks like updating your address or transferring medical records, an emotional processing category for feelings you need to work through, a learning category for new skills you need to develop, and a relationship category for conversations you need to have with people affected by your transition. Clarification during transitions requires extra patience because many items won't have clear next actions yet. You might figure out child care options, but realize that you can't take meaningful action until you know your new work schedule. During transitions, it's okay to have more items in a waiting or pending information category than you normally would. The goal is still to get these items out of your head, even if you can't act on them immediately. For control during transitions, focus on maintaining whatever routines you can while being flexible about the rest. Maybe your normal weekly review process needs to become a daily check-in during particularly intense periods of change. Maybe your usual work-life boundaries need to be temporarily relaxed while you navigate new circumstances. The key is consciously choosing which elements to maintain and which to adapt rather than letting everything fall apart and hoping to rebuild later. Crisis situations require a different kind of adaptation. Whether it's a health emergency, job loss, family crisis, or natural disaster, sudden disruptions demand immediate adjustments to your mental clarity system. During a crisis, the goal isn't perfect organization. It's maintaining enough clarity to make good decisions under pressure. Create a simplified crisis version of your system that focuses on immediate needs. Your capture process might become a simple list of urgent tasks and important information. Your clarification process might focus only on what needs to happen today versus what can wait. Your control mechanisms might be reduced to basic boundaries around sleep, eating, and essential self-care. During crisis periods, resist the temptation to abandon your system entirely. Even a simplified version provides crucial support when your world feels chaotic. Many people report that maintaining some version of their mental clarity practices help them navigate crises more effectively and recover more quickly afterward. Periods of intense work or study also require system modifications. Whether you're in medical school, launching a business, caring for a newborn, or working on a major project, there are times when normal life balance isn't possible. During these periods, your mental clarity system needs to be streamlined and focused on the essential elements. Reduce your capture categories to just the essential ones. You might temporarily focus only on work tasks, health needs, and critical personal responsibilities. Everything else goes into a later category that you'll address when the intensive period ends. This isn't abandoning your other life areas. It's consciously choosing to simplify during a demanding time. Adjust your review frequencies based on the pace of change. During normal periods, weekly reviews might be sufficient. During intensive periods, you might need daily or even twice daily check-ins to stay on top of rapidly changing priorities and new information. Travel and schedule disruptions also require system adaptations. When you're away from your normal environment and routines, your usual tools and practices might not be available or practical. Develop portable versions of your key practices that can work regardless of location or circumstances. Create a travel kit of essential tools, a small notebook for capture, access to your digital systems, and simplified versions of your key routines. Plan for how you'll maintain your practices during travel and how you'll catch up when you return. Many people find that having a specific re-entry routine helps them smoothly transition back to their normal system after travel or disruption. Age-related changes also require system adaptations. What works in your 20s might not work in your 40s or 60s. Physical changes, shifting priorities, evolving responsibilities, and different life circumstances all influence how you approach mental clarity. Younger people might focus more on managing possibilities and building foundations. Their systems might emphasize learning, networking, and exploration. Middle-aged people might focus more on managing complexity and competing responsibilities. Their systems might emphasize efficiency, boundaries, and prioritization. Older people might focus more on legacy, health, and relationships. Their systems might emphasize simplification, meaning, and presence. Health challenges create another category of special circumstances. Whether you're dealing with chronic illness, mental health conditions, or temporary health issues, physical and cognitive limitations affect your ability to maintain complex systems. The key is adapting your approach to work within your current capabilities rather than abandoning it entirely. Simplify your tools and processes to match your energy levels. If writing is difficult, use voice recording. If concentration is limited, break tasks into smaller pieces. If memory is affected, build in more external reminders and support systems. The principles remain the same, but the implementation adapts to your current abilities. Financial stress also affects mental clarity and may require system modifications. When money is tight, expensive tools and complex systems aren't practical. Focus on free or low-cost approaches that still provide the essential benefits. A simple notebook and pen can be just as effective as sophisticated software for the basic functions of capture, clarification, and control. Relationship changes, whether positive or negative, also impact your mental clarity needs. Marriage, divorce, new parenthood, caring for aging parents, or significant friendships all change your mental landscape. Your system might need to accommodate shared responsibilities, communication with partners, or new relationship dynamics. The overarching principle for all special circumstances is flexibility without abandonment. The core functions of getting things out of your head, clarifying what they mean, and controlling new inputs remain valuable regardless of your circumstances. What changes is how you implement these functions to fit your current reality. Remember that adaptations during special circumstances are temporary. You're not permanently changing your system. You're temporarily modifying it to handle unique challenges. Once the special circumstances pass, you can return to your full system or incorporate any useful adaptations you discovered during the challenging period. Document what adaptations work during different types of special circumstances. This creates a playbook for future situations and helps you respond more quickly and effectively when similar challenges arise. Over time, you'll develop confidence that your mental clarity system can adapt to handle whatever life presents. Chapter 13. Building Resilience. How mental clarity protects against future chaos. Mental clarity isn't just about solving current problems. It's about building resilience against future challenges. When you have a robust system for maintaining mental clarity, you're not just clearing today's chaos, you're creating immunity against tomorrow's overwhelm. This resilience becomes one of your most valuable assets, protecting you from the inevitable stresses and disruptions that life will present. Resilience through mental clarity works on multiple levels. First, it provides early warning systems that help you detect potential chaos before it fully develops. When your mind is clear and your systems are functioning well, you become more sensitive to the subtle signs that indicate you're heading toward overwhelm. You notice when your capture backlog is growing, when you're making more impulsive decisions, or when you're feeling more reactive than usual. These early warning signs allow you to take corrective action before small problems become major crises. The second level of resilience comes from having proven systems you can rely on during challenging times. When life becomes unpredictable or stressful, you don't have to invent new coping mechanisms from scratch. You already have a tested framework for managing complexity and uncertainty. Your clear mind protocol becomes an anchor that keeps you grounded even when everything else feels chaotic. Think of mental clarity, resilience like physical fitness. When you're in good shape, you can handle physical challenges more easily. You recover faster from exertion. You're less likely to get injured, and you have more energy for whatever activities life demands. Mental clarity works the same way. When your mind is fit and your systems are strong, you can handle cognitive and emotional challenges more effectively. Building this resilience requires what I call stress inoculation. Just as vaccines expose you to small amounts of harmful substances to build immunity, mental clarity resilience is built by successfully handling smaller challenges with your system. Each time you use your capture, clarification, and control processes to navigate a difficult period, you build confidence and competence. You prove to yourself that the system works and develop the skills to apply it in increasingly challenging circumstances. This is why it's important to use your mental clarity system consistently during normal times, not just during crisis. The habits and neural pathways you build during low-stress periods become automatic responses that kick in when you need them most. If you only try to implement mental clarity practices when you're already overwhelmed, you're asking your brain to learn new patterns at the worst possible time. Resilience also comes from developing what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt your thinking and approaches when circumstances change. The Clear Mind protocol naturally builds this flexibility because it teaches you to separate facts from interpretations, current realities from future possibilities, and urgent tasks from important goals. This mental agility helps you navigate change and uncertainty more effectively. One of the most important aspects of mental clarity resilience is learning to distinguish between problems you can solve and situations you must accept. Many people waste enormous amounts of mental energy trying to control things that are fundamentally outside their influence. This not only creates unnecessary stress but also depletes the mental resources you need for addressing things you actually can change. Your capture and clarification processes help build this discernment. When you write down your concerns and systematically evaluate what action, if any, is possible, you develop the habit of focusing on what you can control while acknowledging what you can't. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on goals that require persistence. It means directing your mental energy toward the most effective possible actions rather than spreading it across every conceivable worry. Mental clarity resilience also protects against decision fatigue, one of the most common causes of poor judgment during stressful periods. When you're making decisions all day long, the quality of your choices gradually deteriorates. By the evening, you might make impulsive purchases, eat unhealthy food, or agree to commitments you'll later regret. Not because you don't know better, but because your decision-making capacity is depleted. Your control systems prevent decision fatigue by reducing the number of decisions you need to make. When you have clear priorities, established routines, and predetermined criteria for common choices, you preserve your decision-making energy for the choices that matter most. This creates a protective buffer that helps you maintain good judgment even during demanding periods. Another crucial element of mental clarity resilience is what I call adaptive recovery. This is your ability to quickly restore mental clarity after periods of disruption or chaos. Even with the best systems and habits, there will be times when life overwhelms your normal practices, jobs get crazy, families face emergencies, health problems emerge, or unexpected opportunities require intense focus. The key isn't preventing all disruption. It's developing the ability to bounce back quickly when disruption occurs. Adaptive recovery requires having simplified versions of your normal practices that you can implement when resources are limited. Maybe your full weekly review takes 2 hours, but your emergency version takes 20 minutes. Maybe your normal capture system uses multiple tools, but your crisis version uses just a notebook and pen. Having these backup systems prevents you from abandoning your practices entirely during challenging periods. Recovery also requires the ability to restart without perfectionism. Many people get discouraged when life disrupts their routines and conclude that their systems don't work. They wait for the perfect time to restart, which often never comes. Resilient practitioners understand that interruption is normal and restart imperfectly rather than waiting for ideal conditions. Mental clarity resilience also provides protection against what psychologists call cognitive distortions, the thinking errors that become more common during stressful times. When you're overwhelmed, you're more likely to catastrophize problems, assume the worst about others' intentions, or believe that current difficulties will last forever. A clear mind is less susceptible to these distortions because you have systematic ways of checking your thoughts against reality. Your clarification practices naturally counter cognitive distortions. When you write down your concerns and evaluate them objectively, you often discover that your fears were exaggerated or that solutions exist that you hadn't considered. This doesn't mean dismissing legitimate concerns, but it does mean seeing them clearly rather than through the lens of anxiety or overwhelm. Building mental clarity resilience also involves developing what researchers call stress mindset. This is your fundamental belief about whether stress is harmful or potentially beneficial. People with a positive stress mindset see challenges as opportunities for growth and learning rather than just threats to avoid. They recover more quickly from setbacks and perform better under pressure. The Clear Mind protocol naturally cultivates a positive stress mindset because it gives you tools for handling complexity and uncertainty instead of feeling helpless when faced with challenges. You have a systematic approach for breaking them down into manageable pieces. This sense of agency and capability changes your entire relationship with stress and difficulty. Finally, mental clarity resilience creates what I call compound clarity benefits. As you consistently practice clear thinking and systematic problem solving, you don't just handle individual challenges more effectively, you actually reduce the number of challenges you face over time. Better decisions lead to fewer problems that need to be solved. Clearer communication prevents misunderstandings that would otherwise create conflict. Proactive planning prevents many issues from developing in the first place. This creates a positive feedback loop where mental clarity not only helps you handle challenges but actually reduces the frequency and severity of those challenges. Over time, your life becomes genuinely less chaotic. Not just because you're managing chaos better, but because you're preventing it from developing in the first place. Chapter 14. Teaching Mental Clarity. How to help others benefit from this method. Once you've experienced the life-changing benefits of mental clarity, you'll naturally want to share this gift with others. Whether it's family members struggling with overwhelm, colleagues drowning in workplace chaos, or friends who seem perpetually stressed and scattered, you'll see opportunities everywhere to help people who could benefit from the Clear Mind protocol. However, teaching and sharing these concepts effectively requires understanding both the principles of learning and the psychology of change. The first principle of teaching mental clarity is that you cannot want someone else's clarity more than they want it themselves. This might seem obvious, but it's the most common mistake people make when trying to help others. You might see clearly that someone's life would improve dramatically if they implemented these practices. But if they're not ready to acknowledge the problem or commit to change, your efforts will likely create resistance rather than transformation. Instead of jumping straight into solutions, start by helping people recognize the cost of mental chaos in their own lives. Ask questions that guide them to their own insights. How do you feel at the end of most days? What's it like when you're trying to fall asleep at night? Do you ever feel like you're working hard but not making progress on what really matters? These questions help people connect with their own motivation for change rather than feeling pressure from you. When someone does express genuine interest in learning about mental clarity, resist the urge to download everything you know at once. Information overwhelm is actually a form of mental chaos, and presenting too much too quickly will likely overwhelm rather than help. Start with the simplest possible version of the concepts and let people experience small successes before introducing more sophisticated elements. Begin by teaching just the capture process. Help them do a basic brain dump in one area of their life that's causing stress. Let them experience the immediate relief that comes from getting thoughts out of their head and onto paper. This tangible benefit creates motivation for learning the rest of the system and demonstrates that the approach works. Make the teaching process interactive rather than lecture-based. Instead of explaining the clarification process in abstract terms, walk through it together using their actual captured items. Show them how to identify next actions by working through real examples from their life. This concrete application makes the concepts immediately relevant and useful. Tailor your teaching approach to the person's learning style and personality. Some people are naturally systematic and will appreciate the structured framework of the Clear Mind protocol. Others are more intuitive and might need to understand the why before they'll embrace the how. Some people learn best through detailed explanations, while others prefer simple demonstrations followed by practice. Pay attention to resistance and address it directly rather than trying to push through it. Common forms of resistance include, "I don't have time for another system." "I'm not an organized person." "This seems too complicated." Or "I've tried things like this before and they didn't work." Each of these objections contains useful information about the person's past experiences and current concerns. Address the no time objection by helping them calculate how much time they currently waste due to mental chaos. Help them add up the time spent on indecision, looking for misplaced items, redoing work due to mistakes, or lying awake worrying. Usually, people discover that they're already spending far more time dealing with chaos than they would spend preventing it. Handle the not organized objection by explaining that this isn't about becoming a different type of person. It's about working with your brain's natural tendencies more effectively. You're not trying to make them into a perfectly organized person. You're giving them tools to reduce the mental friction they're already experiencing. For the too complicated concern, emphasize that complexity comes from trying to hold too much in your mind. Simultaneously, not from having an external system. The system itself can be very simple. It just needs to be reliable enough that your brain trusts it. When people say they've tried similar approaches before without success, explore what specifically didn't work. Often they attempted perfectionist implementations or abandoned the system after minor setbacks. Help them understand that this approach is different because it's designed to be sustainable and forgiving rather than rigid and demanding. Be prepared to provide ongoing support during the learning process. Behavior change is difficult and people often need encouragement and troubleshooting help as they develop new habits. Check in periodically to see how they're doing. Celebrate their successes and help them work through challenges. Focus on teaching principles rather than specific tools. While you might have found success with particular apps or organizational systems, others might prefer different approaches. The core principles of capture, clarification, and control can be implemented with various tools and methods. Help people find approaches that fit their preferences and circumstances rather than insisting they use exactly what worked for you. Model the benefits rather than just talking about them. When you interact with others, let them see the calm presence, clear thinking, and effective decision that comes from mental clarity. People are more influenced by what they observe than by what they're told. Your example of living with mental clarity will often be more persuasive than any explanation. Create safe spaces for people to admit their struggles without judgment. Many people feel shame about their mental chaos, especially high achievers who feel like they should have everything figured out. Make it clear that experiencing mental overwhelm is normal and understandable given the complexity of modern life. This reduces defensiveness and creates openness to learning. When teaching family members, be especially patient and avoid creating power dynamics around the system. Don't become the mental clarity police who monitors everyone else's implementation. Instead, focus on creating family systems that support everyone's clarity. Maybe it's a weekly family planning session or a shared capture system for household responsibilities. In workplace settings, emphasize the professional benefits. Improved productivity, better decision-making, reduced stress, and enhanced communication. Help colleagues see that mental clarity isn't just a personal development tool. It's a professional skill that enhances performance and career success. Be honest about the limitations and challenges of maintaining mental clarity. Don't present it as a magic solution that eliminates all problems. Acknowledge that it requires ongoing effort and that everyone will have setbacks. This honesty builds trust and sets realistic expectations. Finally, remember that the best way to help others is to continue developing your own mental clarity. The more you embody these principles in your own life, the more credible and effective your teaching will be. Your ongoing practice provides you with fresh insights, real examples, and genuine enthusiasm that makes your teaching more compelling and useful. Teaching mental clarity is ultimately about giving people permission and tools to trust their own wisdom. When someone's mind is clear, they usually know what they need to do. Your role isn't to provide all the answers. It's to help them create the mental space to discover their own answers and the systems to act on them effectively. Chapter 15. Your new life begins now. Committing to mental clarity is a way of life. You now have everything you need to end mental chaos and create lasting mental clarity. You understand what mental chaos really is, why it develops, and what it's costing you. You have a proven 3-step system for eliminating chaos and maintaining clarity. You know how to implement the system, troubleshoot problems, and adapt it to your unique circumstances. Most importantly, you understand that mental clarity isn't just about productivity or stress reduction. It's about unlocking your full potential and living with intention, presence, and peace. But knowledge without action is just entertainment. The difference between people who transform their lives and people who remain stuck isn't intelligence, willpower, or circumstances. It's the willingness to take imperfect action consistently rather than waiting for perfect conditions or perfect motivation. Your mental clarity journey begins the moment you decide to capture your first thought, clarify your first commitment, or establish your first boundary. This decision point is crucial because it represents a fundamental shift in how you relate to your own mind. Up until now, you might have believed that mental chaos was just part of life, that feeling overwhelmed was normal, or that some people are naturally organized while others aren't. Today, you can choose to reject those limiting beliefs and embrace a new identity, someone who has a clear mind and lives with intention. This identity shift is more powerful than any technique or tool. When you see yourself as someone who maintains mental clarity, you naturally make choices that support that identity. You capture thoughts instead of trying to remember them. You clarify commitments instead of letting them remain vague. You protect your mental space instead of allowing every input to demand your attention. These aren't burdens you're taking on. They're expressions of who you're choosing to become. Start today, right now, with a simple 15-minute capture session. Don't wait until you have the perfect tool or the ideal time or complete clarity about how you want to implement the entire system. Take whatever you have available, a notebook, your phone, or even the back of an envelope, and spend 15 minutes getting thoughts out of your head. This single action will provide immediate relief and begin building the momentum you need for lasting change. As you write, pay attention to the feeling of your mind becoming lighter. Notice how each item you capture reduces the mental pressure you've been carrying. This isn't your imagination. It's the actual experience of freeing up cognitive resources that have been tied up in mental storage and management. You're giving your brain permission to stop working so hard to remember everything and start working on what it does best: thinking, creating, and solving problems. When you finish your capture session, take a moment to appreciate what you've accomplished. You've taken the first concrete step toward a fundamentally different way of living. You've begun the process of moving from reactive chaos to proactive clarity. This is worth celebrating, even if it's just a quiet moment of acknowledgement. Tomorrow, spend another 15 minutes clarifying some of the items you captured today. Don't try to process everything at once. Just pick a few items and practice identifying next actions. Experience the satisfaction of transforming vague concerns into specific actionable steps. Notice how much easier it is to think about challenges when they're broken down into concrete components. Over the next week, experiment with simple control mechanisms. Maybe you implement a 5-minute evening capture routine or establish one information boundary or create a decision-making framework for a type of choice you make frequently. Don't try to implement every control mechanism at once. Just try one and see how it affects your mental state and daily experience. As you begin this journey, expect resistance both from your own habits and from your environment. Your brain will initially fight these changes because they're unfamiliar. Even though they're beneficial, other people might resist your new boundaries or question your new practices. This resistance isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're doing something different. Persist through the initial discomfort, and you'll discover that the resistance fades as new patterns become established. Be patient with yourself during the learning process. You're not just learning new techniques. You're rewiring deeply ingrained mental patterns. This takes time and there will be setbacks along the way. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Every time you choose to capture instead of trying to remember, every time you clarify, instead of leaving things vague, every time you protect your mental space instead of letting it be invaded, you're strengthening your mental clarity muscles. Track your progress in ways that matter to you. Maybe you notice that you sleep better because your mind isn't racing at bedtime. Maybe you feel more present with family and friends because you're not mentally distracted by unresolved concerns. Maybe you make better decisions because you have the mental space to think clearly about your options. These qualitative improvements are often more meaningful than any quantitative measures. Remember that mental clarity is not a destination. It's a practice. You're not trying to achieve some perfect state of Zen-like focus and maintain it forever. You're developing skills and systems that help you navigate life's inevitable complexity and uncertainty with greater ease and effectiveness. Some days will be clearer than others, and that's perfectly normal. As your mental clarity deepens, you'll begin to notice opportunities to apply these principles in broader ways. Maybe you'll redesign your living space to support focus and calm. Maybe you'll restructure your work processes to align with your natural energy patterns. Maybe you'll have conversations with family members about creating shared systems that support everyone's clarity. Mental clarity becomes a lens through which you view and optimize all areas of your life. You'll also discover that mental clarity is contagious. As you become calmer, more focused, and more intentional, the people around you will notice. Some will be curious about what's changed and ask for your guidance. Others will simply benefit from your increased presence and improved decision-making. Your commitment to mental clarity becomes a gift not just to yourself but to everyone whose life you touch. This ripple effect extends beyond your immediate circle. In a world full of mental chaos, reactive decision-making, and scattered attention, choosing to live with clarity is a form of leadership. You're modeling a different way of being that others can aspire to. You're demonstrating that it's possible to remain calm and focused even in challenging circumstances. Your new life of mental clarity begins now, in this moment, with your next choice. You can choose to capture the thought that just occurred to you instead of trying to remember it. You can choose to clarify what you really mean when you tell yourself you need to get organized. You can choose to protect the next hour of your time for focused work instead of allowing interruptions. These choices might seem small, but they're actually profound. Each one represents a decision to take control of your mental life rather than being controlled by it. Each one builds the foundation for a life of greater peace, productivity, and purpose. Each one moves you closer to becoming the person you're capable of being. When mental chaos no longer clouds your thinking or drains your energy, the journey toward lasting mental clarity starts now. Your clear mind is waiting for you to claim it. Your peaceful, focused, intentional life is ready to begin. The only question is, are you ready to begin it? Take the first step. Your future self is counting on.